You have met Vladimir Putin. You know that economy very well. Rumors of its collapse were greatly exaggerated. What failed to happen?
I think, one, that Russia is a lot more resilient. It is the 5th or 6th largest country in the world. So it is not comparable to an Iran or Syria, for instance, in terms of U.S. or Western European sanctions. That's the first big difference. The second is that Russia started 2014, Brendan, with about $530 billion worth of reserves. Now they have about 310. It is still substantial. And the officials in Moscow told me that they were prepared to deal with sanctions continuing into 2017.
Yeah, but
so
if I could just come in with some data. Real GDP in the last quarter, minus 2.2%, and CPI, 15.8%. Ordinary average Russians aren't feeling what you're saying, are they?
No, they are feeling the pain. It's clear that the situation is very difficult. And I came from my last visit in February, Vonnie, I came away. My forecast is actually worse than the consensus. I'm looking for minus 5% for 2015. The consensus is probably more around minus 3%. So clearly, the inflation in prices, the fall in real wages, which is starting to take place, is helping. What is helping is that the Russian population is declining from 149 million toward 143, 144 million. So that in turn means the working age population is reduced and the real wages don't drop as much as what the inflation would.
Okay, so there's the economic background. The reality is Mr. Putin is going to speak, and then he's going to speak with Charlie Rose. We wanted to figure out exactly what he's going to say, and what we should listen for. Robert Kaplan with us from HBS. If Mr. Putin was a case study at HBS, what would you emphasize that we should listen for this morning?
Is which audience is he speaking to? So this is a which
is important for any CEO.
Well, it's particularly important if you are if you're running Russia and you have the degree of control that he has. He's dealing with very, very difficult economic times domestically. It's tough for businesses to raise capital. The ruble's declining. They can hide some of these impacts for a while, but not indefinitely. Domestic. He's very
domestic.
His first audience, I believe, is always the domestic audience because he's got to retain control. And because he has such tight control, that's the reason he's able to manage this. And he needs to some extent, position Russia as a little bit of a victim, a little bit us versus them, and that appeals to the domestic population.
So you look for more discussion on Ukraine and maybe on the broader southern border of
He's going to talk. He's going to talk why what's going on, what's happening to them is unfair. And how Western powers are treating them unfairly.
Right. And then, Brendan, do you bring in NATO on that? And you think that Mr. Rose will bring up NATO with Mr. Putin?
I mean, that's hard to say. We have been hearing from Russian officials for the last 4 days just how unconscionable this act of bringing in tanks to Poland. It's a needless provocation. We have heard that language. I would expect him to say something about it. I want to ask about the event itself. Robert Kaplan, Tom and I were talking in the break about how it clearly wants to be a Davos. And you go to these events. I've been to one in Korea. They're all over. They say, we want to be the Davos of X. Are these just for the egos of the leaders of those countries, or do they provide an actual valuable forum?
Well, you've got to remember, when this conference was started, it was with higher oil prices, it was pre-Ukraine, pre-sanctions, and it actually made some sense that they might be an emerging leader among growing economies. The sanctions, Ukraine has sort of taken the air out of this, and that's why this conference seems a little odder now than it might have 5 years ago.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about getting the gas out of Russia. This is a constant problem. Russia has been working with Germany to get the Nord Stream pipeline online, and now, of course, they're in discussions with Greece. You know, and this bears on what we're talking about. What does the Russian economy look like? Is this politics or is this economics when they talk to Greece about this Turkish Stream pipeline?
I think it is partly politics, partly economics, Brendan. On the political side, clearly, if Greece were to join with Russia and say that sanctions should not be extended when they expire in about a month's time, that would be a big victory for Russia. I don't think it's going to happen. That's one of the hopes that the Russians have. It's very much on the political side. On the economic side, despite the drop in reserves and the problem that Russia is having with lower oil prices, They still have a substantial amount of foreign exchange reserves when you compare with the crises of 1998 and 2009, and they have the ability to help Greece. The point here is, I don't think they will come to the assistance of Greece now just for Greece to turn around and give that money to the IMF or the European Union.
Okay.
Right.
Once there is a default and you actually need new money to purchase medicines for Greeks, for instance, that's when the Russian money becomes important.
Sri-Kumar, thank you so much. Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate this with Sri-Kumar, Global Economics.